I guess I'm ready to start the stream.
Rise and shine, sleepyhead. It's a brand new day. Now prepare to experience the most outrageous man on radio.
It's an excursion into the odd and into the very, very different.
Just sit right back and you'll hear a tale.
This is insane.
Quality, quantity, and variety.
ROCKFLUX.
Let's get this show on the road.
And away we go. 5:24 a.m. The trucks. I guess what brought you here was the other title card, but this was from the same photo shoot done in black and white. And I printed out a copy of this photo. I've got that round face now where it looks like I'm wearing a war helmet or something. I don't care. Wait till you see tomorrow's title card. But it's kind of an interesting photo, you know, this black and white version. That's the bird feeder I built, and there's a little kind of a Oriental style roof on the top of it, which isn't really a roof. I should have built that much bigger to protect from the rain and the snow. There's a solar motion detector light there, which went off today, and I was at the sink. I saw it, and I quick looked over, and as that happened, I dropped my mug into my porcelain sink and broke the handle. And believe me, these things are very rugged. I recommend you buy one for yourself. Just don't drop it, you know, into a hard porcelain sink. I know the color just like freaked out on that. It'll come back. If it doesn't, who knows? But you can see a couple birds on the bottom and a couple of birds on this little base feeder. And then the feeder's actually on the other side, which you could almost see below the thing. And we can still see the trucks are going like crazy up top, despite us admiring my photography and photo effects, I guess. But the reason that area is so dug up isn't from the birds. It's because I was trying to go after. I noticed that there was a tunnel for one of these yard rats that it was tunneling under the snow. And I put out some more of this. The alleged, from my investigation on the internet through YouTube, and the trial and error, and the people that actually have taken trail cams and done the due diligence. You know, some people say it works and it does, you know, and it may or may not have worked for them, or they may have had won something, blah, 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 who knows what. But I want the person that does the scientific, you know, imperial evidence. And there's this one gentleman who has gone over a 3-year period of time who has a happy farm, happy homestead, something or other. I forget the guy's name. Maybe it might be Joe something. And he tried everything. And he had minor success with just about all the things that you could probably think of. But the most successful came down to bake a half and half baking soda and like baking soda and a kind of actually like a Jiffy corn muffin mix or something like that. But basically basic baking soda and flour with some kind of something that's going to draw them there. So whether it's cocoa mix or cornmeal, something sweet, something that they want. And that seemed to have been the best one. The one that basically he had an infestation. I basically got some rats coming from my, you know, I know it's cruel, but the witch next door's, the neighbor she's got a couple rats over there. And I'm just trying to beat out the time, and it may be too too late. They may already be, because I saw a couple paws or feet marks coming up in the snow, so they may already be, like having a brood or whatever they have there. But there's a small one. Hers are huge, but then there's this small little one, the mouse-like looking one that I was digging around there because I had seen it had gone in that area. Anyway, trials and tribulations. I can't believe I broke my mug. I forget when I bought this thing. And the coffee's super hot today, and it's not usually. There's a lot of people who drink their coffee like this anyway. You ever notice that? They never use the handle. They always just grab the mug. But you got to have calluses or something on your fingers. That's if I put this up to your face, my fingers are hot. Anyway, I thought I'd share that picture with you. That was taken during the same photo session as the title card, which I'm not sure if I've added today yet. I didn't. I will. The title card, Snow Garden is what I called it. And it says, this video is not about global cooling, the morning show with Tony C. I'm having trouble seeing out of this eye. It's a little blurry. I don't know. I need to go to an eye doctor, an optometrist or something. That's the path leading to my garage. And you can see there's another motion detector light. The black pole, it looks like it has a face on it almost. And those two eyes, they light up. I don't know if that's intentional or not, but you could see a couple of raised beds there, and just the upper far left. Look at all those coal trucks going up the street. Upper far left. Here's another one. Look at, see? Feeding that behemoth because, I guess we'll get into everything today. I'm kind of rushed this morning. I really didn't. I woke up at 11-ish or something like that, but then midnight.
The Weather Watch forecast.
So let's do this weather thing while I'm talking about it. It's 16 degrees outside. That's probably why there's the mad dash to the power plant with the coal truck. So your electric car is definitely running on coal today. The high today is going to be 37. And the low overnight's 27 Fahrenheit. So we're below zero, or below freezing Fahrenheit and Celsius. Tomorrow is going to be rain, thunderstorms. Thursday, thunderstorms. But for some reason, Thursday, they're saying the high could be 68 degrees. So we could jump from 16 degrees to 68. That's like a 52 degree temperature shift. That's crazy. And then the following day, Friday, more thunderstorms, and the high's only going to be in the 30s, and the low's going to be below freezing, 28. And then the weekend is maybe 50, but the overnight's going to be in the 30s. So, there's your...
The Weather Watch forecast.
Actually, a little bit of
weekend weather
thrown in there just for the sake of it. So, as I say, this video is not about global warming. I was messing around a lot trying to get this thing organized, and this is basically, the title is Flow of Consciousness. I've lost count. I don't know how many shows this is. I try and I try and I try. And this eye is clear, this eye is blurry. And I do not have any, I've been having trouble with this eye too. Oh, man. My mother has eye problems, so she's 88 and a half, but, still runs in the family. She's had, I don't know if the cat's pawing at it in the middle of the night, scratched it, did something. I had been putting some eye drops in it. I just dropped coffee again on some more papers because this coffee thing I have Does not seem to work properly. I got to get to the bottom of what the hell I'm saving that one card for anyway. Ace Rewards card. It's good till the 31st. There's no way I'm going to spend $5 off 35. Save $2 instantly. If there's an expiration date on this, I certainly can't see it with this eye. And let's see what else they're telling us here. If you're wondering what's going on.
You're listening to Tony Caravan Live.
Oh. Need a handmade stone and mulch? Yeah, I do. So I'm saving that card. And then I've got my new round of Ace. I'm not sponsored by them, but they've got my cards for the following month. It's the closest and easiest place that I could get someone that I know with a car to, to help me get some mulch and some. Here's 10% off your next purchase of a regularly priced item. That's nice. But yeah, it used to be $5 off $25. Now it's $5 off $35. And the thing about it is, I guess that's not as bad because with inflation, the price of everything is doubled. So you're going to have to, if you go to these stores, you're going to end up spending that kind of money anyway. I don't know. So if I put this here, see how, the reflection of light. I really need to build a bigger desk. And the cat, I put 2 different kinds of cat food out on the floor in the kitchen, which I hate to do because it could only attract bugs. I'm talking fast. My hand, it's hot. I guess I'm going to have to buy another mug. I can't believe that. There's no way that could be fixed because, as you can see, the entire... You know what I mean? There's nothing really you can glue, but it would have to really be super glue. I'm always disappointed by the fact that super glue was never really super glue. Never bother you? I mean, they have some incredible, like, 2-part epoxies or whatever they call them. But they're just not, strong.
Brilliant!
You're right.
Your papers, please.
Get some of those things out of the way. And by the way, for you people.
Good morning.
Still blurry. Little blurry. I don't know. If I wasn't tethered, I'm tethered with headphones here. You could see the wire there below. I'm tethered because the Wi-Fi doesn't work with my old iPhone. I mean, the Wi-Fi works, but not, the way this Apple doesn't have the latest operating system on. It's garbage pickup day, so hopefully they'll pick up my 2 bags. It was windy like mad yesterday. And I didn't look out the front door. It's another thing I'd like to just get up. I should have done it before I got on the show. But, I mean, the stuff in my garbage was pretty heavy, but the wind that was blowing was shaking my house. And this video is not about global cooling. But that's yesterday, I don't know, midday. You could see it's fairly lit. It's a little it's not as crisp a photo as you would like in this title card that, we're looking at. But as you can see, the path is somewhat cleared to my garage. I had to get to it, but that there's snow in the raised beds. But we had gotten about 8 inches of snow here in the mid-Atlantic states on March yesterday, being yesterday 28. Today's the 29th of March in the calendar year 2022 for you folks finding this in some kind of weird salt mine archive after the catastrophe. But I'm set back about 3 weeks, according to my, basically 2021-22 garden planting record. I get 2 years per booklet, usually, as I said yesterday, for those who watch these shows. I can't imagine anyone, I watch them, but they're long. And like yesterday, I was up at 1:23 a.m. And so I was watching a playback of this show. Sorry for doing that, man. I'm just waiting for it to clear up. If I put an eye drop in there, I know he'd be fine. It's just, I was falling asleep. 2 hours is a long time. It's like sitting through a movie, right? It's feature length. These are feature length, podcasts, vlogs, webcasts, videos. I just saw a thing this morning with Jennifer Connelly from a movie and in a music store. And the title, it was Flock of Seagulls song was playing. And I noticed I lost that. So this will be good. So this is like I wish, I don't have the music video to show you. And even if I did have the music video, I couldn't do anything about it. Because, copyright, idiocy of, the games they play. But here's a scene of her. She's roller skating with this dude. Maybe you remember the store. She was cute when she was young. She's cute when she's old. She aged very well too. She just she changed. Her look changed as an adult woman. But when she was a girl, she was also quite beautiful. But this is her like roller skating through a record store, which had compact discs have already come in. So you could see they got big signs, compact disc, as if, oh, wow, these new things, right? So that kind of dates this to a record store, but they've got compact discs. Jennifer Connelly. Yeah. Anyway, Flock of Seagulls, video, Jennifer Connelly. Look that up on YouTube. I always liked that song to begin with, and I liked her. I'm trying to think what movie this was. It wasn't the title. It was. I think it was. I couldn't find it. Let me go back. I'm gonna check this quick. Let's go to YouTube and see if it's still up. I'll take you along for the ride on this just because I've built it up. Display capture. And I have no idea this Will Smith thing, that people are dealing with. I don't pay attention to that stuff. Have you ever seen this thing at all? They do this, it's this girl, she's looped. Let's see. You seen that thing? And she does it to different songs. I can't play too much of that or I'll get a copyright hit the way this thing works. Let's look for a Flock of Seagulls Space Age Love Song and see. There it is. This is the one. Look at Jennifer Connelly's face right there. Let's just look at a couple seconds of this. She's putting a cassette in here at the store, no less. Yeah, definitely. Isn't she cute? Or what? Yeah. Hey, I can't help it. I got a weakness for beautiful women, my downfall over the years, married twice, had about 6 longer, fairly long-term relationships, The problem with beautiful women, and I know some will take offense to this. I mean, some guys luck out and some women don't come under this category, but the problem I've had with beautiful women is that there's always these wolves they won't accept the fact that she's your, girl, your wife, you're in a relationship, right? And so they, sometimes they just wear them down, Guys are constantly like hitting on them. And, if you happen to slip up, right? Do something wrong. So the guy's hitting on her for like a year straight or something like that, or months, and you happen to do something stupid. So that particular time you're on, all relationships have their ups and downs. And if you're on a subtle down, meanwhile you're about to come home and apologize with a bouquet of flowers and dinner or something, but she happened to go to some, hang out with her girlfriends at some place, and this guy hits on her, and she ends up having a little too many, and I don't know, making out with some dude, and that's the end of that. Or, or if you're a business guy and it's like you go through a stretch where there's some big project and you're like spending a lot of late nights for a week, and this guy's hitting on her, and again, same story. She's like, and these guys wear her down. So there's always somebody trying to. So there's an old blues song. I forget who the blues man was, classic old blues guy. But it's like never, always don't go for, well, that's the gist of the song, is just don't go for a beautiful woman, because, all women are beautiful, though. You know what I'm saying? I'm just talking about the model-y type, or the Jennifer Connelly. I mean, when she was like, that cute stage, I mean, women go through these stages, you've got the stage where they're just dolls, right? The cute dolls. Then they're the model-y beauties, statues of Venus type of thing. And then they're beautiful women, because as women age, and mature, there's a certain, as the mind and body, and I guess you can say, the whole thing, mind, body, spirit type of thing, as they become, that point. And I mean, I don't want to sound like I'm the expert on women, but yeah, I do know women very well, because that, there's a certain thing about a woman who's older, a little bit older, and I mean anywhere from like, 35, to even 50, that there's, the mature woman. So there's the cutesy, then there's the model-y, beauty, and then there's the entire woman, the whole package. And each one of those, this is like a pain to women. And like I say, all women are beautiful, and, and guys don't ever realize that, they, sometimes people pursue too much the superficial and don't realize that the true beauty lies within, or the entire package, so to speak. But yeah, I've always had, and that's why I don't have a lot. In fact, right now, I don't have a lot of male friends. And I, even when I used to have a bunch of people, in the days, I mean, right now, it's me and my cat, I have 2 things of cat food sitting out in the kitchen, which could be attracting bugs. I haven't seen bugs in, a while. But it's like they're this fresh, wet cat food. I gave it 2 different kinds, and it snubbed both. And I was going to just throw them away, But my garbage is stinking so much from like all this cat food I'm throwing away. So believe me, this is crazy when you got a cat going through these problems. I don't know. It was eating it before, wet food. So it's like, I don't know. There's some flavor it needs, anchovy. There's like a can of something from the veterinarian, like prescription thing. You think that the veterinarians or something that they would be pushing, that they would do some kind of thing, like test with animals that they do it with humans, I mean, the whole concept why you pick up a bag of Doritos, cheese Doritos, or one of these weird things, and you can't stop eating it, right? Why people don't eat one Oreo. Oh, I think I'll just have one Oreo cookie, right? I'm going to have one, whatever, Dorito. Just one chip, You want French fries with that meal? Yeah, just give me one French fry. And that was actually a movie made about that. This is a flow of consciousness, of course. But so, just go with it.
You're listening to Tony Caravan Live.
There was a movie made about that, showing the chemistry of how these food companies actually have these labs, taste labs, and how that the tastes that, are the signature tastes of many foods, particularly junk foods and fast foods, are actually concocted in a laboratory with in taste tests, and they're there with like test tubes and droppers and putting this and let's try a little bit of that, and then they do this, and then there are certain things, by understanding the biology, the physiology and the biology, how the human body works, and the cravings. And when I say cravings, I don't necessarily mean mental cravings. I mean physically, right? That people that understand how we work, how the what I call the android body. You get the bioelectric brain attached to the android body, and the only way you can break free of anything, this definitely looks like a helmet. Is with your consciousness having control through your mind consciousness, soul consciousness, whatever you want to call it. In other words, to overpower the bioelectric brain and this android body, and even this, and which would include your microbiome and things that are making these, that people are able to manipulate in such a way that they're like, must have such and such, must eat another, must have this, I'm hungry for such and such. And again, that's even outside of certain illnesses that people have, or like people get a worm and something and crave dirt or something. I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about people who manipulate us in the food industry. My house is shaking. My house is falling apart. The wind was blowing. I hope both of my garbage bags didn't blow out into the street, get run over by trucks, and that I'm going to see some kind of ungodly mess out there. I just hope the garbage trucks came, picked up my stuff, and everything is fine. And I can't believe I broke my mug. And the reason that motion detector light went on, and why I was startled in a sense, because I quick wanted to look and I just dropped this thing several feet. Because otherwise, I've dropped it before and I've bashed it against the side of a porcelain sink, and they're sturdy mugs. Believe me, buy one. They're not expensive. I'll buy another one. But was because of this rat problem, this rodent problem. And I was thinking, well, it was probably a rodent that set off the light, and I wanted to see, it. Yeah, this eye's still a little blurry. doing a live show and, well, I guess I shouldn't complain. I mean, I don't make a living on this, so it's not like I should, but I mean, I shouldn't complain, period. But anyway, the backyard still has a ton of snow. It's all white out there. And by the way, when that motion detector light went on, that's why I thought I would get a clear view of whatever, because it's all white. March 29th. March came in like a lion and out like a lion. There's supposedly, according to some of the online meteorologists, like the guys on YouTube, who track some of these things and have some pretty nifty setups. Let's just look one more time at Jennifer Connelly there. I mean, that wasn't the best photo of the batch. Watch that video, if you get a chance. It's kind of cool. It'll just take you back. I mean, it's juvenile in a sense, but it's like Flock of Seagulls. Space Age Love Song. That was a good tune. One of my first, when I let's see, how do I say this? I had a girlfriend in my college town. Okay. She was a senior and she was 1 year behind me. So she was a senior. I was madly in love with her. I really was. I mean, we already met. It was like met the parent relationships, already met the parents type of relationship. I was like, she was my girl, right? This is, but I had, she was still a senior. I already was out of school 1 year. She was just 1 year behind me. So she's finishing up college. I get a job in New York City. All right. I'm an independent. It's like a company bought 50%, bought into my company. Like they bought it wasn't a control. I don't think they had a controlling interest, but I think they bought 49% of my company. But whatever it was, their buy-in was basically covering my salary. In other words, they put enough money in that I was making enough to live, and I was using their offices. They did this with they bought into people who were doing things like cutting edge projects and in the entertainment industry, publishing the entertainment industry. And so they're much like VCs today. In other words, they would invest in dozens of companies, and they knew that a lot of these were going to just fall flat on their face, but that if one of them took off, then their investment in, the dozen or 2 dozen was well worth it. Okay, that's how venture capital works, VCs. So these guys were New York VCs many, many years ago before Silicon Valley. This was in entertainment publishing, And I had this unique idea. They thought it was unique and blah, blah, blah. So I used to spend about 3 days in New York City a week. I had my own secretary, my own office. It was really nice. And I was making, since they bought a piece of my company, I had money. So in my hometown now. So college was over here. My hometown's like down here, and New York City's over there. Okay. Imagine this like triangle, right? And each one is several hours distance from one another in that triangle. Couple hours. And so I bought this old hotel. It was like a lease purchase agreement I made to do it, So it wasn't like I bought it outright. And so because it needed work, the guys wanted a little more than I wanted to pay, so we worked out a good deal. But it was a lease purchase. Each payment was going towards the mortgage, so it's like almost they were taking, they were holding the paper, so to speak. But it was a short term, and anyway. So I opened up a lounge restaurant in this place and gradually was having some of the rooms fixed upstairs and got the place. There was a lot of plumbing and electrical and things like that. but I got it up to code, and I even got the liquor license approved in the place. And so on the weekends, I wanted to spend time with my girl, right? But I would that was when, once this place opened, it was like I had a line around the block. It was successful. I mean, I was that type of guy. I always had my finger on the pulse. And like I say, it's like not tooting my horn. That's how I did the things I was able to do. And so the place was really successful. And I had left this person I'd known most of my life and some other people, like, kind of managing it while I was away. Because I'd be in New York for 3 days, and then I wanted to spend a couple days with my girlfriend on the weekend, the second half of the weekend, but she's got school, heavy schedule during the week. She wants to get out of, finish college as soon as possible. And then I had to be present at this property, this hotel, like I say, restaurant, bar, lounge, hotel, property. So I was, splitting my time between 3 cities and 3 different locations, 3 groups of people and stuff. And in this bar club, it was small, but it was funky. The reason I'm bringing this up is I needed small bands. I built this small little stage, which was like in a triangle shape. It was off to the corner, so it would take up the least amount of space, so that there could be a little room for some tables, and people wanted to get up and dance. They could dance, but the rest of the place was tables, and then the bar was off to the back. It was not a super big place, but I think the capacity was a couple of hundred people. And I would literally get a line Friday and Saturday nights. There would be a line to get in. So, I had a cover charge, which is ridiculous. There sounds like a garbage truck or something, or a spaceship landing in front of my house. So I could only hope that it's either that or a street sweeper. But anyway, I found this band that was like a girl and 2 guys, and they were into like songs like Flock of Seagulls, and that kind of stuff. That was the time, and that was the era that I had this place. And they did it perfectly. And so if they were playing, it was Friday night jazz, and my deal was you had to wear a sport jacket on Friday night. You didn't have to wear a tie or anything weird, but you had, gentlemen had to wear a sport jacket. I was just, because I could do whatever I wanted to because of the crowd. The place was popular, and the music was really good. And sometimes on jazz nights, it would just be, I had a stage, I would have a reel-to-reel player there, and was playing my unbelievable collection of jazz because of my connection in New York City in the publishing entertainment business. I had an agent, a publicist agent, and I was dealing with the record companies and people like that. So I had a big in with, in the industry. So I was able to get, and I was involved in some of with the record companies. So I was in and out of the record companies. I told a different story about my relationship with CBS in those days. I used to just walk in and out of CBS like I worked there. And so I had all this music, live stuff. In fact, I could think of an album off the top of my head, Echoes of an Era. If anybody knows that, if there's any jazz fans out there. But so I had this incredible jazz, collection, jazz, blues, whatever I happened to get into. But it was like jazz nights mainly. And so it was a combination of classic stuff, so there might have been Miles on there, but then there was new jazz still coming out, and a lot, people don't realize that, and I had it. So sometimes I just have this reel-to-reel playing, and people would come in and sit at the bar, sit at the tables, and it was a jazz night, and gentlemen had to wear sport jackets. But Saturday nights were New Age nights. It's really weird. And then eventually I had a comedy night on Wednesday. I did open mic night on Tuesdays. It was kind of a funky place. There was something different going on all the time, but it worked. It worked. And, and while I was there, I was seeing a lot of cash. But the problem was I wanted to spend time with my girl, and I had its business in New York, which was basically funding, my ability to make all this stuff happen. Anyway, these people I left in charge, like usual. Look, you're always going to get bartenders and people when you're in that kind of business stealing from you. It kind of goes with the territory, all right? And they're experts at it. You could put cameras over the register. You could do all kinds of things. You could put, lines on the bottles, get bottles that have some kind of electronic measuring things, whatever it is. These people, they got they're there all the time. They're going to figure out some way to scam you, okay? But these people went beyond scamming. They were basically skimming, all right? They were skimming big, all right? And I wasn't around, and I was more concerned with, in the New York City dealing with that and my girlfriend. So, unfortunately, but anyway, so I ended up losing this girl because I was spread so thin. And particularly, I remember the one time was this band I had booked that was playing, doing the Flock of Seagulls stuff. I just had a Saturday night, and I'm like, come on, I'll even drive up, pick you up, bring you down, blah, 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 whatever. I don't know. And I think maybe somebody else was hitting on her, but I don't know. She ended up down in D.C., and I don't want to, get into something. Like I said, I always preserve people's anonymity and privacy. She's a very intelligent woman. She ended up writing some book, and I don't know. She's successful, as far as I know. I've lost touch with her. Last time we had contact through an email 20-some years ago, and that was the last time. Be that as it may, I might have been longer than 20 years ago, but it was around that. Anyway, so I went in this band, and they just blew me away. Love that song. There's the garbage truck, and it just passed my place. And I hope my stuff didn't blow away last night. Unless that was the recycling truck and the lady next door, but I didn't hear bottles and stuff. So, yeah, watch that video, Flock of Seagulls, Space Age Love Songs. Don't drop your mug. Buy a mug so I could afford to buy one. If you buy, if 10 people buy a mug, I may be enough to buy one for myself. Can't believe that happened. But yeah, I was into that kind of music. I was a new age, I liked all that songs, plural. And there were some punk songs that I liked, and I was a Clash fan and, Overpowered by Funk, Rock the Casbah, And then into the more and then the pop versions of the artists that were coming out at that time too, the Elvis Costellos. And then the really off-the-wall stuff. There's some girl called Christina, really obscure. I still listen. I still have one of her songs. I know it's not on here, but, because I was in New York, so I was able to go into the record shops, And I had the Walkman thing, the precursor to the iPod, basically. Or the compact disc, portable compact disc player. But I used to go down into what people called the Village, downtown. And I used to do that after work. I'd take the subway down, and I'd go to this record store when I get paid on paid day. And this is another time. This is not when I had my own business. This was before that, when I worked for, I'm trying to think. No, this was after that. Because then I took a job for working for Columbia University. And so I was just pulling a paycheck from Columbia University. And so when I would get paid, I would go downtown. And I used to go to some place called I think it was a Shaggy Dog or something like that. It had a big shaggy dog outside. I'm not sure. I had a friend who was a painter, an artist. He lived in the same building as Billy Idol. I was in the elevator a couple times because Billy Idol's girlfriend lived up, the floor above him. And I used to go down there, and we used to go out. We used to go drinking, and I can remember being Billy Idol in the elevator a couple times. Totally not looking, out of character. Seemed like a nice bloke. But I would go to this record store when I'd have my paycheck, and I would always, it was like a religious thing. I would get something really new, because New York City had this weird station. I think it was on Long Island. I'm pretty sure it was a Long Island station. And it was like the type of station that everything they played was just like outrageously great. And they were really into new music. They would be considered like what K-Rock was on the West Coast. K-Rock used to just be like, play all the, there was a period over there. In fact, a lot of this stuff here, that I have.
Rise and shine, sleepyhead. It's a brand new day.
Tattoo used to do some of the, the production for K-Rock, and at one point he was working there, or did some. I forget exactly. I don't know. I know he was doing 91X too, but I mean he was involved in K-Rock doing something. But anyway, this was the Long Island. It was different. They were totally freeform. This Long Island station, like really freeform. And you would do this stuff you would never hear anywhere. And I would go. There was this record store downtown, like I say, in the village, so to speak. Bleecker Street, actually, is where it was. And when I would go in and I would say, "Hey, do you have that song by Christine? Do you have that new album by Christina? Or there's a song by Christina called, such and such?" And the girl or whoever was behind the counter would go turn around and and grab the cassette. I'd say, "All right, I'll take it," And then I played the crap out of it, but I'd listen to it on the subway going home. But I'd go to the Shaggy Dog, which was just a few doors up from this record store. I think it was called the Shaggy Dog or something like that. And and that bar was really cool. And they had a really good jukebox. And I used to put in some jukebox. It was early, right after work, so the place wasn't really crowded. And I used to sit down, used to get a seat at the bar. And I'd play some songs on the jukebox, which were songs, that jukebox had some of that really, fresh music on it. And I'd sit there and drink a few beers, and sometimes, you get these stewardesses. For some reason, I can remember at that time, like Swedish stewardesses like coming in and hanging around me and stuff like that. Like I couldn't even talk good English type of things, but they were drop dead knockouts. You could see my obsession with like women at that point in my life. It was like, and it was just fun. It was just fun. And then sometimes I'd get together with a friend of mine who was a painter, who exhibited in some galleries and whatnot. And we would go to like the Blue Note, like the jazz clubs, or some of these ethnic clubs down there. I don't even know if these places, there used to be neighborhoods. I'm sure these places have all been gentrified. This is years and years. This is like over 30 years ago, 35 years ago or more. And you used to be able to go into a neighborhood, and we used to go into different ethnic neighborhoods, like just randomly. So say, for example, we'd go into like a Lithuanian neighborhood, right? And you would go into a bar and it would be authentic Lithuanian. And the people behind the bar were Lithuanians, people in there, were immigrants, just recent, migrated from Lithuania. They had the food, the decor, the music, right? Sit at a booth, get a pitcher of beer. And I can remember, I think it was, and I don't know if I ever told this story before, but one time, and I'll get over this, it's a flow of consciousness, so I'm just letting it flow. Was in there, and I know I told this story on the air, but it might have been years ago, or at least a year, or several years ago. That, before I'd come home from work. This is when I worked at Columbia. I'd go back to my place, and I'd take a shower and get changed, with my downtown, different clothes, right? Not the clothes I'm wearing at Columbia. And so, because I was like the boss at Columbia. I was a supervisor of the newspapers, the Daily Spectator, the Law School Journal, the Columbia Guide to New York, and also we used to do the New York, that school, the High School for the Performing Arts. I used to basically do that for them. That's the Fame School, right? That's the kind of stuff I was into up there, So it's not like I was dressed up formally, but it was like work clothes. I worked during the day. Okay, come home, take a shower, and then get my leather jacket, hop on the subway, go downtown, do my thing. I'm already Anyway, so I get together with a friend of mine in the Billy Idol building, and we're in some authentic Lithuanian type of place. It could have been an Italian. It could have been, it could have been anything. It could have been Ukrainian, speaking of the current times, whatever. They did neighborhoods down there that were that's how it was. People lived in neighborhoods, I mean, everybody understands Little Italy and Chinatown, but they don't realize that there were other neighborhoods that were just from, other ethnic groups, other, countries had their groups too. It's just, they just weren't as like on the radar or featured in movies so that, or big enough that people would think of it as Little Italy or Chinatown. So we're in this Lithuania town, Lithuanian neighborhood, in this Lithuanian bar. Well, anyway, while I was taking my shower, I used to blast music. I'm a music person. Like, even to this day in this house, I've got speakers in every room. All right? And they could play loud. It's just how I am. I have the largest music collection of than most people. All right? And so I was blasting the new Joe Jackson album, had just come out, Night and Day type or something like that it was, right? And because that was the era, all right? That was new. That was considered new wave. Joe Jackson was a new wave artist, right? And so I was like, remember, while I'm showering, getting dressed, getting ready to go downtown, I'm listening, to Joe Jackson album in the house. All right, that's that. Bam, in the subway, go down, buy a CD, go to the Shaggy Dog, have a couple of brews, talk to a couple stewardesses, walk over to where my friend lived, go to his house. Sometimes we'd have a glass of vodka, It was weird. We were drinkers, all right? And then maybe we'd go, and then we decide where we're going to go while we were like sipping this vodka, on ice type of thing, just straight vodka, good vodka. And we decided to go to this Lithuanian place. So we're in this place. We ordered like pitchers pitcher of beer. We're sitting at this booth and we're just rapping. We used to have discussions. He was a painter. We would talk about philosophy, art, and all that kind of stuff. It was like hanging out in France, with in the old days, back, when Hemingway and, all those people got, used to just sit there, drink, and talk about stuff. That's what it was like for us. That was our, our Paris. And New York was like that. And so my eyes cleared up a little bit more. So we're sitting there at the booth, and it's my turn to grab to get the pitcher. Because like I said, we were drinkers, and we didn't get like crazy drunk. We just drank a lot. And then by the time we drank more than we could our fill, it would be time to go home. And then I'd ride the subway home in the middle of the night, kind of thing. And sometimes these gangs, there'd be nobody on the subway except these roving gangs and stuff. And that's another story. You had to learn how to become invisible, and you also had to dress just right so that they wouldn't bother you. You always had to wear sneakers, jeans, leather jacket, but not a new leather jacket. And you had to look like you're half asleep and you didn't have anything, or that you might have had a friend, which was another word for a gun or a weapon on you. They don't want to mess with you, right? That's the way the gangs were. There'll be 3 or 4 punks walking through the subways looking for a sucker, a tourist, or somebody that they could like roll, get some money from or whatever. So you had to be the type of thing where like, I don't know if I want to mess with that guy, right? And I had that down to a science. I never got rolled. In fact, and I've told some other stories about New York where but forget that. I go up to the bar to get an order, another pitcher. The door opens. This is a small bar, right? This is a small neighborhood bar, and nobody goes here. And I'm only maybe 5 bar stools tops from the front door, and there's, a walkway, and then there's booths. It's that thin type of bar, right? And then I guess you could go towards the back. So anyway, in comes 2 people, man and a woman, and this woman is like trying to console this guy in some ways. Like, oh, don't worry about it. You're like, whatever. But I'm not paying that much attention. I'm looking at the woman, this woman behind the bar who's pouring me a pitcher, right? So this guy's next to me and almost bumps into me. And the girl's on the other side, right? And so he bumps into me, and I don't really care, So I turn to see like, well, he bumped into me, but like I'm not a redneck in a sense, like I wanted to fight or something, but it's like, and it was Joe Jackson, the guy I was just listening to before I came to think. So I turned to him, I go, hey man, you're not gonna believe this. I was just listening to your album before I came out tonight. And he, with his elbow, he elbows me in the ribs. Because apparently something was on. He was pissed like something, because even when they came in, like I said, and he elbows me in the ribs like really hard. And it would be and my friend, the artist, who was the type of guy who was like, now he could just bam, like, I've seen him already. Somebody was acting up next to him on a bar stool, and he just like blindsided, just like when put his fist out. I know you can't see here. He just went like boom and flattened the guy. And I'm like, hey man, we got to get out of here. Do you know what I mean? So he's ready to like hop on his feet, right? And jump in and grab this guy, right? And the girl quickly comes over to me. Oh, you don't understand. He's like going through this thing. And I'm like, and the woman behind the bar doesn't know what's going on. She's figuring there's going to be this rumble, right, in their place. And I'm like, whatever, man. My side is like hurting. I mean, he like elbowed me with the tip of elbow, the elbow. And I'm like, all right, whatever. I tell the girl, because I was just out to have a good time. I like my friend, I don't want to say his name, but I'm like, chill, man. I just grabbed the picture, right? I think the girl said, well, let me at least buy you the picture or something. So like she paid the lady for the picture. I'm like, you don't have to. I don't care. But anyway, she paid the lady for the picture. I go sit down at the table. And I said, it's frickin' Joe Jackson, man. And he wasn't really a big Joe Jackson fan, but he knew who I was talking about, I said, I don't, and they were there at the bar leaning, belly up to the bar for a while. Jackson and probably his manager, I guess the woman was, unless they didn't seem like it was a romantic relationship. It seemed like she was his record company, something to do with the industry, right? Anyway, I think they had like a drink or two, and then they ended up leaving, and we probably had another picture or two because we were just out for the night, having our classic, philosophical, discussion about arguments over art and artists and philosophy and, things that I used to enjoy. And I still to this day enjoy a good conversation. True story. Weird. But the idea that I actually was listening and partying, kind of like getting psyched to go out, for the weekend, listening to the Joe Jackson album as the album, and I run into the guy, and instead, I didn't even want his autograph. I wasn't that type of guy, because I didn't care about that kind of stuff. But the guy actually elbows me in the frickin' ribs. True story. In like some weird ethnic, off the wall, off the beaten path, I should say, place, neighborhood that who would you, why? I guess, I don't know. Maybe he's Lithuanian. I don't know. But yeah, that's,
Tony Caravan.
You've been subjected to a highly sophisticated form of propaganda.
It's just what you need, and not what you don't.
Yeah, I got stories to tell, man. I could tell you stories. Craziness. Absolute craziness. Insanity. So, like I said, this video is not about global cooling, obviously. And yeah, same era as that scene from Flock of Seagulls, whatever that movie was that she was in. But yeah, the weather is crazy. But I mean, it's not, it's just totally against anything that, the media would be saying. And I really wonder about if you are, what do you do if you're one of these pundits, right? Or you're a news reader, anchor, whatever you want to call them. One of these people, they making $10 million a year, $20 million a year, whatever, a couple $1 million a year. And you've been pushing this narrative, for, I don't know, 15, 20 years now, whenever Al Gore's first came out, 15 years ago or something like that, maybe more. And it all fell flat on its face. A decade ago, it fell flat on its face or more because all the predictions in the first movie never came true and stuff. And like I say, and guys like me, the people who really know, keep record books and journals and stuff. And then, and if you have access, if you're in a position, you work for a major news organization, you have access because they subscribe to so many services. So they have access to current, like Nature, these publications, these peer-reviewed publications, they have like, what do they call it? LexisNexis and all kinds of weird, they have stuff that the average person doesn't have access to, in other words, they can research capabilities beyond that are pay services that you have to be, you have to be an organization that makes good money to subscribe to these types of services. And so they know what's going on, right? And then they have contacts. So, it's like even the meteorologist or the people in the department that deals with putting on their weather and stuff like that. They know people at NOAA, type of thing, or because they have they're getting exclusive weather maps and different things from them and stuff, So, I don't know if I have any of them still here. Let's see. I don't think I do. Do I have an Earth view? No, I currently don't. Sorry about that. I used to put up the weather maps. I used to do that. And I used to get them from NOAA, various NOAA sites. But I mean, these people would get the stuff. And they had live feeds, and they probably had a room. Their meteorology room probably had like 3, different monitors, and they probably had a live monitor, one of the satellites over the U.S., and they were monitoring this thing live, blah, blah, blah. And then other stuff, reports and things like that. So they know. But instead, they keep pushing a narrative that's dead. And you have to wonder and say, like, why would you do that? Right? After a couple of years, why would you do that? And what's to be gained by lying or pushing some kind of narrative? And that's the part that always has puzzled me about many of these issues. Like, and we call them narratives, and that's pretty much the word that everyone uses today. It's like the push. There's a certain narrative that seems to be the mainstream narrative. But more and more people, in fact, it was the title of one of my shows, what happens when the majority of people realize that the narrative is wrong and that they've been lying to us for a long time? See, because right now, I talk about, and I know it's not that people don't want to hear it, but it's Department of Education type of, statistics. When they say, a fifth of the people coming out of high school don't have reading skills, they can't read, basically. Or that 40%, or almost half the people in the country are functionally illiterate. I mean, that's like, in that Department of Education, the .gov sites. These things are like mind-boggling. But, they push these other narratives. So, one excuse is to say, well, they're aware of that, and they're just trying to sell commercials. They're commercial entities, just like other companies that aren't media companies are trying to sell products. So they have to take into consideration the demographic. And, you understand what a demographic is. A demographic profile is basically takes into consideration everything about you. That's why Facebook collects data, Meta, or whatever you want to call them, and all the other companies, Google included. They collect data to create a demographic profile. So in effect, they know more about you than you know about yourself. Or if you happen to be a person seeing a shrink, they know more about you than your shrink knows about you. Because they've got psychologists and all kinds of people, human behavior scientists and everybody analyzing and sifting through this data, and AI and algorithms going through it. And they're watching everything you do, every keystroke you take, and every when you even make a backspace and change your mind and delete that sentence is still put in your, into your whatever, directory, whatever. So this demographic profile. So they're able to have predictive behavior. And that's most commonly, everyone knows that by seeing the ads that they talk about, and sometimes just even they go or talk on the phone with somebody about, and then it appears on there and they go like, well, that's weird. It's like, some people now are saying even things they think about. It's a weird video I saw that was at Davos, one of the World Economic Forum presentations from about a year or so ago, within the past 2 years. And it was a woman, an attorney. I spoke about this once before, it was a legal presentation. And she was making the point in this presentation, I think you could still find this on YouTube, right? Because That's why I try to tell you, for all the people who think that this stuff is like out there, it's like, no, these sites exist. There really is a World Economic Forum, and they are covered on Bloomberg and, CNBC and all these places. And these videos, this stuff is, they want people to know this, and not everybody can attend, so they put these presentations are out there. And there was a presentation that you might, you just do some kind of search on YouTube to figure it out. Figure the keywords, and hopefully you'll find it. And this female attorney was making a statement saying that there is no, as far as she could figure out, and it saw that there was nothing, no legal, no laws would be broken and she was referring to them, if we were used information we gleaned from the thoughts of a person, that would not be a violation of any kind of, speech, freedom of speech or invasion of privacy. I think it was that privacy was the thing that they were, was the grounds that she was dealing with, invasion of privacy type of thing. But the whole gist of her presentation in front of these billionaires at this World Economic Forum was that if we read people's minds and we get information from that mind, there's nothing illegal about that, because it was never written into any kind of document and conceived in any way, that it could be construed as being illegal. So that as far as things are now, we have the right, if we read people's minds, we can use that data. And I'm going like, this is out of like a sci-fi movie. But this was like a serious present. This is the kind of stuff these people talk about. That's what I'm saying. It's the year 2022, but a lot of people are acting like it's the 80s, and they're thinking, it's still like space age love song, old, movies type of time. And it's not. It is the future if you were born in the year 2020, you're 22 years old, it's not the future for you, it's just your life. But if you were born, if you're 40 or 50 or something like that, this is the future, And the point is, the future is the future. Remember, it was 2001, A Space Odyssey. Even the idea of the movie 1984 was futuristic when it was written, and then movie 2010 and, Blade Runner, the original Blade Runner. So people don't understand that the future did come, right? Just as predicted by all these sci-fi writers and all these people, most of which were, of whom were pretty close on target. It's just that they've hidden that, like that's in the background. And the average person, they've managed to like somehow pull the wool over people's eyes, I guess through like, since people spend, the nanny state raises most people for half their lives almost between, from the time they're given away after maternity leave straight through to, endless college, right? And so people don't consider these things at all. And I look at it and go like, no, we're living in the future. And I've been around and I've seen things, somebody was in and out. Too bad they missed this part. Because like I've said before, when I was in D.C., and I had the security clearance, all right, many, many moons ago. I was privy to things which I'm not going to speak about, particularly, but some of them were space age type of things that would have blown your mind, and that was over 35 years ago. So, that's the thing. We're living in the future. And what puzzles me most, I guess, is that why why do they keep pushing this narrative, and what is the motivation behind making people feel as if, apart from the fact that they acknowledge that there's some new ultra chip by Apple or somebody else like that, or some, weird device, widget, gadget or whatever, or your refrigerator can can remind you at the grocery store what's in what you're running low on, or something like that, smart this, smart that. But apart from this, that kind of tech, the whole, what's really going on is all hidden from people. Like, people don't understand, in the 70s and 80s, people would talk about, reading license plates from spy satellites, right? Which is now commonplace. It's not even, that's not something that's classified, right? And even the Google satellites, the Google Earth and whatnot, some of the resolution on some of those things is pretty darn close. And then, of course, they've got the cars that go around that take the street level stuff. So you really do, you could see everything practically. And it's amazing how well they've covered, the grounds they've covered. But the point is, some of that technology is 40, 50 years old, at least 40 years old. And the narrative today is as if those 40 years never passed, or say 35, or even 30, as if we're still living 30 years ago. And so people will accept the smartphone and certain smart devices in their house, right? They understand AI and GPT. Some people know what GPT-3 means, right? The word algorithm has resonates with some people. But in everything else, it's as if, nothing else advanced over the past 30, 40 years. And it's like, whoa, the smartphone is nothing compared to what's happened over the past 30 or 40 years. Right? These other technologies, these major technologies, satellite technologies, right? Right? Certain technologies have gone so far beyond what was in science fiction. It's like all you have to do is look at Star Trek, like even The Next Generation, for example. And you look in Picard's ready room or whatever. Okay? Like I say, never let a good Star Trek reference go to waste, Hey, Scotty, we're talking about Star Trek again. Just thought I'd let you know. But anyway, you go into Picard's ready room, and he's got a computer on his desk, and basically it's like thick, the monitor is thick, like the first IMAX that came out, the ones that were the all-inclusive one. In the original Star Trek, they were cathode ray tubes. You could see they had a back to them. They couldn't conceive that they would get rid of the cathode ray tube. But Star Trek, even Star Trek sci-fi, we went beyond The Next Generation, right? And certain things like the tablets, and different things they held, we've shrunk down the smartphone to do more than we would see in sci-fi that was sci-fi from the 90s. Which is 25, 30 years ago. But people don't make that connection. And they don't realize that we're beyond, futuristic sci-fi in one regard. We've surpassed it. We've leapfrogged it, in fact. Because these shows were supposedly taking place hundreds of years in the future. But that's crazy. It's my show started so late that you can actually see the light outside. You could see some snow over there piled up on the side still. The sun was out yesterday, so and of course they shoveled their sidewalk over by that hardware store, I see. The streets are clean. Anyway, so when I talk about, but at the same time, nobody talks about the sun. And I bring this up all the time. And about, the sun's impact on the planet. Like the average person has no idea that, there's a lot of people that don't even understand the concept of vitamin D and D3, and that we respond almost like we photosynthesize, basically just like plants. Just a different form of metabolizing, solar rays. It activates way more things than just getting vitamin D. It activates all kinds of things within our body. And in other words, we need the sun to survive. The sun is basically a source of a lot for us. And it also has this, it protects the solar system with its, outreach to prevent, cosmic rays from coming in from outside, just like our magnetic field helps protect us from certain things from our own sun and those other cosmic rays. But we have a weakened magnetic field, which makes us more susceptible to things from the sun, so that we could have a certain type of solar flare, some kind of something the sun shoots at us that maybe 30 years ago would have not really been such a big deal. But with our weakening magnetic field, it could be a big deal. And of course, the Earth is just surrounded with space junk. It's just tons of satellites. I mean, tons of satellites. Elon Musk has, got, what has he got, 1,000 of them? This whole thing he's doing. I mean, and all those things are susceptible to solar outbursts as well. But, when we talk about global cooling and things of that nature, the sun affects geothermal activity on the Earth. So we have an uptick in volcanic activity because as more of these cosmic rays and these various things come in, that excites, magma and things beneath the Earth, which basically, tends to force more volcanic activity. And there are scientific papers that point to, peer-reviewed papers that point to this even, causing earthquakes and things of that nature. In fact, there are some out there, and I've read some of these papers, that it is believed that within a decade, earthquake prediction will be a real science. Whereas now people are like, oh, you can't predict an earthquake, Though people are predicting earthquakes already, but not with pinpoint accuracy, but in some cases pretty darn close. And so because we're understanding the science of that, and we're understanding that it's our star, it's our sun, its magnetic fields, it's the same with the circulation, the Atlantic circulation. We used to call it the conveyor. Now they have a different name for it. But that's slowing down. And that means that we're going to see cooler weather in like the northern latitudes, because that whole circulation in the Atlantic is basically bringing up warm air from, the southern areas to the north. And then that warm air, in effect, keeps the northern latitudes warmer than they should be. See, England should be much colder than it is. Now, I'm sure certain Brits are like, it's cold enough. Right? But it's the truth. And it's just, and so that's a whole thing that is just, again, people know this. If you're in a major media organization and you happen to have a meteorology degree, right? You work in that, you're in the earth sciences, right? That kind of thing. This stuff. And you have access to this data, and you've had access to it. So the question is, why would you withhold that data? Or, what is that narrative? Why push this ridiculous narrative of, climate change? And, which is basically just global warming changed because the earth is cooling. And now they're trying to say, oh, if there's a snowstorm, that's climate change, see? It's like, that's not what you were saying 15, 20 years ago. You see, you can't just change the name of something so you can keep some kind of fear, factor going on, right? But that seems to be what's going on. And that's my question I was asking yesterday in many respects. I'm going like, well, why? Why? It's one thing after the other. What are you trying to divert us from? That's the question. Or, it just doesn't make sense. These people are educated people. Like I say, I worked at Columbia, and some of these people in the media and stuff, I've actually known people who have gotten decent jobs working, at major, media companies. In higher positions, editorial positions and stuff like that. And I can't imagine for the life of me. I mean, these were brilliant. The students that were like under me at the time I was at Columbia were brilliant. These were brilliant people. And it's, and so I can't imagine why they, would do that. And most of the people I've encountered over the years and worked with and befriended, had a certain, were ethical, moral type of people in the sense that, they wouldn't, they didn't care. They had enough self-confidence in themselves, enough of ability that they had no fear. Where I talk about, there's a lot of Washington bureaucrats are afraid to make waves because they don't want to lose that job, that big income, or they're hanging in there for their pension or something, like school teachers in some areas, right? They won't speak out or buck the system because, they're hanging in there till they could retire. Okay, I can understand that. You got a family, you got a big mortgage, you got a house, you got bills, and you're just hanging in there and you don't want to make waves because you don't want to lose your job. But not intelligent people, Ivy League, above average intelligence, high IQ, multi-talented individuals who could basically have their pick of the litter of any kind of any work they want. Why they would push a narrative that they know is know to be false. That's very puzzling to me. Very puzzling to me. And it's like all of these other things. I don't get it. I mean, unless you are literally converted and somehow a true believer, so that it's one kind of fear mongering, one thing after another to keep people in this constant state of like where they're stressed. Because the American people, for example, and I'm sure people of, all over the world who, are constantly in a state of fear right now. And that's like one of the worst things on the human body is stress. It's just, it's a poison, it's a toxin. Man, I still can't believe I did that. I tell you. Broke my mug. It's been such a staple of the show, So, yeah, that's puzzling. So, yeah, but this video is not about global cooling, The planet is cooling. That's a fact. We're facing food shortages. That's a fact. You have to just live through it. You've got to figure a way to get through it. You have to prepare. You have to take care of yourself and the people that you care about. You got to live in an area where, where you can get by and survive. Like I say, it's not enough survive, but you got to thrive. That's why I've never been one of these people that got into the people who are into this. They say, oh, we got to prep. There's been preppers for forever. It's like, no, excuse me. It's not a matter of survive. It's a matter of thrive. You want to live your life. You want a good quality of life. You want to live as, the same as possible or whatever. You want to be happy. And being happy isn't like hiding in some kind of bunker, eating rice and MREs, that kind of stuff. No, that's nonsense. Using a composting toilet, that's not happiness. That's insanity. Being constantly in a state of fear, what's the difference than now? Being afraid of catching some kind of thing, being afraid of World War III, being afraid of, some, cult of personality, political candidate, red team versus blue team, all that stuff, all that crazy stuff, as if some bogeyman is going to, do something. But that's the world we live in today. They just constantly throwing this stuff out at us. But the people that are throwing this at us are no better. Is it truly just mercenary? Have people really stooped that low so that it really is they just want to, these YouTube, what I call the YouTube millionaires. So these pundits that just keep pushing this stuff, they just really want to make sure they keep, what they call it clickbait, but it's the whole video bait, basically. They really just want to, I'm not monetized, by the way, and that thing behind me, if you're that is not real. Okay, that's a joke. It says Tony Caravan Live, presented to Tony Caravan Live for achieving more than 3 views. 3, as in, 1, 2, 3. All right. It's a joke. It's me making fun of YouTube. But no, I'm not in it for the money. But these people are in it for the money. And they're making hundreds of thousands, and some are millionaires. And certainly those in the media are millionaires. I've been in the media, so I know how much that people make, especially the on-air personalities. So is it really that? Is it all about mercenary? Is it going like, hey, I'm raking in, $10 million salary, so to heck with it. To heck with the common man. I don't care if I scare kids and people and stuff and have them frightened. Or I don't care if I'm going to hold back the truth. In other words, well, those people are functionally illiterate, or they're less than we are, so they don't have the right to know that the sun might, take out the grid, or that our grid's in bad shape. And hey, we better change that Build Back Better to something different, because there's no way we're going to be able to build back better without the use of fossil fuels. Right? Which is the truth. Right? I'm still waiting for somebody to come out and admit that T-Bone Pickens and those people who put up all these bird killing, windmills that are now all falling apart on the magnitude of 1 million in Canada, I believe. Right? They're rusting away in graveyards, windmill graveyards in California, some of the early adapters of these things. They're breaking down. They're huge, right? Require cranes that you need fossil fuels, diesel fuel to get up there to upgrade them, refurbish them, repair them, put in a new generator, change a propeller. You know what I mean? These things, their time has come and gone, but now they're standing there as these almost these old Roman and Greek columns, but it's like this, testament to this unbelievable idiocy that we went through. Never lowered people's electric bills, never contributed much to the grid, overall power of the grid. And like I said, there's just simply not enough power in solar and wind. We don't have, particularly solar, Most buildings don't have the footprint to have enough literally square footage to put solar power enough to run their HVAC systems on particularly the upper half of the United States to heat us or cool the South. So why do they continue this idea and this narrative too? Right? It's very puzzling because there are solutions. In other words, shouldn't we all be working together for solutions and say, hey, we got a problem, okay? We thought, like I've got great solar stuff. I'm all for solar panels in my backyard, and people should have some solar because if a grid goes down, and besides, you could save money, reduce your electric bill if you have solar, even partial solar. And if, like I say, I have back here, I don't hold it back. Talk about it on every show. Just this jackery thing back here, which is, my on-air light above, I power that, and I've powered things from that. No, these are good things to have for individuals. And if you had a lot of square footage or acreage, then sure, you could put a solar array up. But, most people live in buildings, apartment buildings, or don't even have an acre of land. They live on a fraction of an acre of land, a house. It has a house, you got a yard, right? A notification that it's garbage day. Anyway, so why do people lie about that? So we should be finding alternative solutions and dealing with that. And if our magnetic field is weakened, we should be like dealing with that too, almost. Like, I don't know what exactly we should do, but we shouldn't be wasting our time. If we know that, we have this mid-Atlantic or the South Atlantic anomaly where the magnetic field is almost non-existent in some areas. We know that the magnetic South Pole's left Antarctica and the magnetic North Pole is heading towards Siberia, so that we don't even really have technically a North and South magnetic pole. So we might be on the verge of a pole shift. We're not even exactly sure what the repercussions of that might be, right? But we know it definitely will affect the migratory patterns and affect animals and things of that nature that use maybe this magnetite they might have in their head or whatever. You have to talk to a biologist about that, right? But, all these things are hidden from the average person. And it seems like it's like, just do this, do that, be afraid of this. And meanwhile, they're creating demographic profiles so they could have predictive behavior on the stuff that we buy. And they restrict free speech and people that talk about things. If I were to take this conversation into very specifics, then it would be censored. I'm just covering, these are the broad strokes. There's certain areas you just can't get into. And so why is freedom of speech being curtailed? That's another question. Why? What are they afraid of? Remember, they're basically blocking ideas. They're banning people who are disagreeing with this, what I said earlier, a narrative, which goes completely against all logic. Yet these are intelligent people, above average intelligent people. Doesn't make sense. Like I was saying, even getting back to that, me and the artist friend sitting in a bar, just having conversations, and friendly arguments over philosophy and art and things of that nature. This discourse, that's what it's all about. And I have it would be the same with people of science, arguing over something, or an anthropologist arguing over some kind of thing, right? An archaeologist arguing over the age of a certain, something that's uncovered somewhere, right? People talk about the Younger Dryas period. What was it? A comet that split and had these asteroids. One hit Greenland, one hit the western United States, caused this ice melt, blah, blah, blah. Or was it this solar catastrophe thing that occurs every 12,000 years that caused this massive near extinction event? Right? People can argue about that. People could talk about that. This is what scientific journals are all about. But for some reason, when you talk about certain things, it's like, oh no, you can't argue that. Right? Wasn't it the one guy who you don't see much of him anymore, but he said, I am science. You can't argue with me because I am science. He actually claimed he was science. I'm like, what do you think science is? Science is disproving, right? The idea is if your argument stands up, right? You know, I didn't realize someone that Trey was on there. I didn't realize. I wasn't looking at my stuff. He mentions that people push the narrative in order to receive funding. Yeah, I understand that. That's the whole education system. The professors, you want tenure. That's the same as teachers in high schools and wanting to stay in there and make sure they get their pensions too. But it's not just about money, because there's always people out there that are... I was never the type of person that just allowed myself to be, ruled. In other words, if it went against my moral fiber, I was willing to walk away from the job. I had enough confidence in myself that I would just move on. I wasn't about to take any crap from anybody. And I don't think anyone should. I don't want... It's like that poem If by Rudyard Kipling I've read on the air once or twice. You have to stand, and I mean the gist of that is that you have to be, true to yourself. That's the whole idea. You stand up for the truth. And be I don't know what the word would be. What do you say? Just be real. Put it in just basic words. Stand up for the truth and be real. And don't make any person or thing your master, right? Some people might say, "Oh, well, it's easy for you to say." Now, like I'm a millionaire or something. No, I've done a lot of things and I've made some decent money over the years. But there's one thing about money is it doesn't last forever. Even if you're, excuse me, even if you're frugal, you're still going to have cost of living. And so even a frugal person finds that, they eventually have to live within a budget. And I decided that's why I bought this property. And, I looked at the long term and I said, if I keep on the path I'm going and the work I was doing at the time, because I was involved in publishing and things like that, entertainment type of publishing, towards the end of my working thing, because I retired about 7 years ago. I just quit, publishing, and I bought this house, and now I basically, grow my own food and live as inexpensively as possible, basically at the poverty level. And I do not get monetized. And while I encourage you to go to Great Solar Stuff and all these places, I don't. They're just websites. I'm just affiliated with them and as an affiliate program, which means you make, a 50 cent or $1 commission maybe or something, depending on what the person buys. And I live in the neighborhood there, as you could see. It's a street, decent enough. You know, it's not, I don't live in some obscure place. I'm not out in the woods. I'm at the outskirts of town, though. This is like this is the road that leads out of town. Okay? I'm outside of the city. All right? So, anyway, I don't know if what I talked about, I mean, it was a flow of consciousness, and I guess towards the end I got into a little bit of detail, but it is still I'm not publishing, it's still puzzling that why people push a narrative that's simply not true or restrict open conversation and discussion and argument over issues. Because the whole idea of censorship and curtailing free speech, you're hiding something. There's like, it's like Occam's razor. It's like you look at every other reason. Why would you do such a thing? Even like I say, I didn't talk really politics at all today, really. But even if I were talking politics and someone's talking politics, that's still not grounds for like censorship. That's just somebody who has some ideological difference, right? A political difference. So why would you censor them because they say, oh, I don't believe in this particular thing? Do you see? It doesn't make sense, right? It's not, and we've reached a point now, so that's why I have always said, and I didn't really think I was going to get into this, but just to end with it, it's like, it's a former United States. Western civilization's fallen, and, when you get rid of free speech and the basic tenets of what was once a constitutional republic, you're left with a totalitarian state. And the only reason that most of us don't want to grasp that and and say, well, you're going a little too far, is because there's 330 million people here, and it's a big country with a lot of miles, from the East Coast to the West and the North to South. And so it just hasn't hit every small neighborhood. But nonetheless, if you look at it in major markets, it's a totalitarian state. You're living in certain areas, high crime districts, like I say, on average, there's 2 million people murdered each week. There's 40,000 people who die every week of things that are preventable, And that should be the topic of discussion, more so than anything else. 40,000 people a week on average, according to CDC, leading causes of death. If you divide it by 52 weeks in a year, it's like comes around to roughly 40,000 people a week are dying on average of things that are basically caused by their diets, the foods, processed foods, and the lifestyle, the quality of life in this country. And yet everyone would be obsessed with like jingoism and wars and all these other things that don't even come close to the amounts of people that are dying on a weekly basis of things that are like preventable and easily treatable and in many cases curable. So that's, again, the big question mark there. Why? Why is this being withheld from people, and why are they forcing jingoism, and all these other things, and keeping people in a constant state of fear of this? Just because I said that, there was a no data thing came up on YouTube. See, I meddled with. That's their way of messaging me and saying, hey, you don't go there.
Good morning.
And quite frankly, it was, I'm not going to go there because I'm so tired of YouTube. I'm so tired of their games. They're basically in violation of the U.S. Constitution and the First Amendment. There's no such thing as Section 230 because the First Amendment says Congress shall make no law abridging freedom of speech. So if Congress, the lawmaking body of the United States, can't do it,
how can a private or public company do it? They can't. That would mean a private or public company could commit any crime because they're a private company. Do you understand? And where's the ACLU and lawyers on that one, right? There is no recourse, no answer, no retort, no nothing. Fact of the matter is, social media is in violation of the Constitution, basically the law of the land. These are considered high crimes. So I'm not going to mess with them. Anyway, visit ROCKFLUX.com. Buy one of my shirts, hoodies, hats, something or other. Get a mug. Trust me, they are sturdy. I just, I've got rodents in my backyard. Support my stuff. Buy a book. Buy the print version of Then What or Codex. Go to Great Solar Stuff and get yourself a power backup system. If you want to buy a solar panel or one of those motion detector lights, do it. Help support the site. I'm not monetized otherwise. If you buy a shirt or a hoodie or whatever you get, I'm only going to make 50 cents or something. It's one way of supporting me and letting me know that it's worthwhile doing this thing. And it's a way for you to basically, everything you know is wrong. You don't know what you don't know, or then what? It's a basic way of you, without being in somebody's face, communicating to them. I'm getting a no data reading from YouTube right now. Anyway, so I'll talk to you soon. Take care.